Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Thursday, October the 13th. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW Twitter handle. Good morning, Sean.
Morning, Tony. How are you going?
I'm very well, very well. Now, first things first, we will direct you to the wonderful prize that is still on offer from the Celtic Way. You know what to do. Celtic travel to the Santiago Bernabeu to play Real Madrid in their final Champions League Group F match on November the 2nd. And one of you and a friend can be there at the match, courtesy of the Celtic Way and Travel Bank Holidays. As you can see on the screen, we're now running our best ever subscription offer. And not only is the prize 2 tickets to the match, it's the whole trip. 2 match tickets, 2 seats and a direct return flight from Madrid to Glasgow, or to Madrid from Glasgow. 4-star accommodation in the centre of the city. And we'll even throw in a bit of spending money for you while you're there. Now, you know what to do if you want to be entered into the draw for this prize. It's for subscribers only. So if you currently subscribe to the Celtic Way, you're eligible, and you should already have had an email in your inbox with a link to the forum. Just fill in the forum, and that's you in the draw. If you're not a subscriber, look along the ticker tape at the bottom. And our current deal is £6 for 6 months of full access to everything that's written on the site, as well as the podcast. It's everything we do on there. That includes big interviews, in-depth features, tactical and data analysis from a smashing lineup of columnists with thought-provoking opinion pieces. It's the whole shooting match. So that's the equivalent of £1 a month for the next half year. And the minute you complete your subscription, you'll also be eligible to win this fabulous prize alongside the rest of the people. And you will get an email in your inbox with the all-important forum. Marvellous prize, Sean. Absolutely brilliant. And somebody's going to win it.
Not long now, by the way, Tony. Not long now. In that game, I got Aidan done the newsletter yesterday on the kind of state of play and the head-to-head. Obviously, rule Celtic out of last 16 Champions League qualification, but that Real Madrid away game sticks out to me. It's going to end up. I still think Celtic will be able to beat Shakhtar at Parkhead, and that being the case, I think that means that they're going to need to go to the Bernabeu and get something. So that game is going to be massive, I think, when it rolls around.
I believe that too, Sean, and you always believe in miracles, don't you? So I'm the eternal optimist, or chaser of rainbows, as someone said yesterday, Sean. So we'll keep chasing the rainbows. But there you go. Guys, also going to throw open to you today. Yep. Give us your questions. Myself and Sean will endeavour to answer them as we build up to the Hibs game. Sean, Celtic. Next up for Celtic is Hibs at Celtic Park. Trying to get back on the domestic horse, rediscover the domestic mojo, call it what you like. But it's been 2 wins in the last 6. Those 2 wins coming against Motherwell. And what was the other one, Sean? Whose memory escapes me.
Sorry, say it again.
The 2 domestic wins, St John. Yeah.
Johnston, aye. Sorry, I was distracted reading the comments there.
Temporary loss of senses, yes. Motherwell and St Johnston, the last 2 wins, but Celtic, to all intents and purposes, off the boil, Sean. What do they need to do to get back on the boil, Sean?
I mean, you know how I always say about the kind of the 2 columns, the performance.
Yeah.
That St Mirren game aside, domestically the results are fine, right?
Yeah.
They've been fine. But the performance, that one's not been ticked a couple of times, and I think that'll not worry Ange Postecoglou, but it'll slightly disappoint him, I think, because the squad's still there despite the injuries and some important injuries as well, and whether it's Jota getting withdrawn at half time, McGregor missing games, which they've missed anyway, that St Johnston game, as you pointed out in your piece. Carter Vicker's been out, doesn't help. I get all that, but there's still been more than enough to put in better performances than what they've been putting in. Now, that said, when I'm doing the data roundup, most of the time you're still seeing that they're creating enough. It's the same as in the Champions League, except it doesn't matter as much domestically. They still eventually take a chance. And like that St Johnston game, you've seen the occasional Celtic nick a win and all that. And I suppose by definition, scoring in the last minute is nicking a win. But at the same time, when you look at the game as an entirety, they were well worth that win. It just so happened that the goal came in the last minute rather than the 70th or the 16th or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So the performance hasn't necessarily been there. The chances have still been there. So I think it's looking to tick both of those result and performance columns again. And the best place to start at is at Parkhead, I would suggest.
Well, Jackie Duffy comes in. He's played 2 strikers up front.
I mean, I'd be intrigued to see what it would do, but I'm not. I don't think he's going to do that because, well, one, I don't think they've got the depth to actually play two up front from the get-go. Really, I would be intrigued to see how it would work. But as long as it doesn't entail Kyogo moving wide left or whatever, then I could see why I would want to see it. But I just don't think it will happen. I think it will be 4-3-3 for the foreseeable.
Andrew Gallia says he's liking Haksabanovic. He's forcing Ange's hand. Now, Haksabanovic, to me, starts games really brightly. He had a good performance, 90 minutes against St Johnstone. I thought he started the game the other night very well, the RP game, but faded, and I think he's faded a couple of times. When he's played, he started really well against Shakhtar as well, and then faded. So I don't know if he just keeps playing Haksabanovic to get his fitness levels up, get those valuable game minutes, and he will get better because you can see an improvement.
I think he's done enough to keep himself in that lineup as long as he's feeling fit, feeling fresh. Because I mean, you see what he does, and we talked at length about the substitutions yesterday and stuff. Whether it's Europe or domestically, he likes to make a lot of subs, make use of that squad, that kind of notion of get the intensity for 60-65, take a few off, try and keep that intensity with the guys that come on, all that kind of stuff. So while that's in place, that kind of strategy, I would start him, Haksabanovic. Whether you start him as one of the front three, or whether you start him where he's been playing the last couple of games in midfield, I would start him. I would go that route with him and keep getting him in the team and then taking him off rather than introducing him later on.
Well, Pegleg Lonergan says Jota wide left with Haksabanovic in the number 10 role is our best lineup at this minute. So he says,
I mean, I initially thought that's where he was going to be the other day, the St Johnstone game, when the lineup came out.
Yeah.
Partly because of the way that it was formatted. I've told you before, don't trust the Celtic FC Twitter when it comes to formatting. They've got their own centre backs are the wrong way in that all the time. But I thought because of the way it was formatted, it was going to be a 4-2-3-1. It wasn't really. It was still a 4-3-3, and I said that. And it was more Haksabanovic in O'Reilly's position, O'Reilly and McGregor's position, and they just bring different qualities to it, obviously. But so I wouldn't say he's actually played number 10 for Celtic yet. But certainly, I take his point that Haksabanovic in a kind of more central area does look good. I don't know if I would say it's the best lineup because I still think the best midfield trio is McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly. But obviously, with McGregor being out, you're horses for courses, and you're kind of putting that responsibility onto O'Reilly just now rather than the other sixes that are in the squad.
Now, David Bradley poses a question, Sean, where are the goals coming from?
I still think there's I realise that it's going to sound disingenuous because they have been struggling to actually find the net a lot. But I still think when you look at the players there, it's just a matter of time until one or two click on the same day. To me,
I'm going to agree with Chill Pill. GG to start. Now,
I don't mind that.
I said my heart was ruling my head with the Kyogo shout the other night,
and
I did.
Your head ruling your heart, you mean?
Well, yeah, sorry.
Aye, because I get what you mean. I don't necessarily think Kyogo's been shocking, right? But he's obviously not. He's obviously not been hitting his heights the last few games. He's still the team's top scorer. He's still taking up good positions. He's still getting himself into good positions to get the chances. He's maybe grabbing at them. The other night, I felt he was a wee bit excited at the start. I think his decision making was a wee bit rushed with things against Leipzig. I thought Giakoumakis done well when he came on. We said yesterday might have got a goal if it wasn't for the tug on his arm. The VAR maybe still looked at it, all that kind of stuff. But he did have a couple of useful bits of hold-up play, which he did last year, remember, against Ferencváros, sticks out for me in Europe where he can do that. And it's not just let's hold it up and just play it to nobody. He's actually quite intelligent with it when he does it. Domestically, he does it. Whether it's Kyogo or it's Giakoumakis, the two of them scored domestically. So I have no problem if he does start. And there is a bit of rotation probably needed after an exhausting,
I think so too.
Champions League game. So I have no problems with that.
I wouldn't be averse to Giakoumakis getting a wee extended run centre forward now, because I just think Kyogo's been off it recently, and I just think the other night highlighted that the Kyogo of old would have put that header away, no bother at all. And so I just think sometimes players need a rest and to recharge their batteries. And I think Giakoumakis is, he might not do anything for a long time, but he showed on Saturday. that he's sharp and alert when he needs to be. And then the other night, I think he would have scored had he not been fouled.
Aye.
And I just think that sometimes you just maybe need that to dig you out a hole at times. And at the minute, Kyogo's not the player that's going to dig Celtic out a hole. I see Giakoumakis as being that player, whilst we maybe struggle for some domestic form. That's what I'm saying. It's no slight.
Maybe I'm hoping that they don't find themselves doing a hole against them at the weekend. But I think there's a wee bit of game time got to be split between the two of them, and obviously Kyogo's get the nod the vast majority of the time so far. Well, he's been fit. Giakoumakis been kind of relying on the odd start and the odd sub appearance, and he's still doing well, I think, for the most part. St Johnstone probably sums up what you said there. He wasn't actually playing all that well, really. But then still alert, still knowing what's going to be happening, still switched on. As I said, there was some players, even Celtic players, Aaron Moy switched off when Dre Wright clutched his foot. James McCarthy didn't, Bernabe didn't, and Giakoumakis didn't. And that's testament to all three of them, really. So, no, I have no problem if Giakoumakis starts. I think there's also the element of that intra-squad competition.
Yes,
if Giakoumakis starts again and scores again,
you
know the type of character he is. He's going to want to start the next game. Kyogo's going to think, well, I really do need to find my shooting boots the next couple of games if I come on, that kind of thing.
And I think that's a G-up that maybe Kyogo needs as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want anybody hitting any kind of...
I'm going to throw this one to you. Tony, David Bradley, Tony Maeda can't start. He's been rank. Would you agree he's been rank or just been poor in front of goal, really?
You know what? I find this kind of disingenuous to players. I think it's a wee bit insulting to say they've been ranked. That players go off for him. And I think Maeda's just a guy that's maybe struggling for confidence. And I think, and I agree with Pegleg that both him and Abada's performance levels have dropped big time. But I don't think it helps when people get on their back. They have to be encouraged at all times to get them back in. And Maeda gives you a lot of, does a lot of the dirty things the other night, unnoticed. Chases back 50 yards, wins the ball, that kind of thing. It's just he's thinking, the decision making at times leaves a lot to be desired. From the opening minute when he had the chance with a header, from the one that he skied out the park when he was in acres of space and could have picked somebody out. I just think that's a player that's bereft of confidence. To call them rank rotten, I mean that's a bit of a slight on a footballer. He tries his heart out every time he goes on the pitch and he gives his all. Sometimes it's no good enough, and at the moment his performances aren't good enough. Is he another that could benefit with the rest? Yeah, probably. But I think a lot of people know the qualities he brings to the team when he's sharp and he's got his eye in and he's playing. It's just not happening for a moment, and he's having one of those spells. And I feel for him a bit. I really do. I feel for all the players that are struggling for form, but he's not alone. But to call him rank, I would draw the line at that. The guy's been poor the past few weeks. I think we all can see that and accept that, but got to get behind him, and let him know that he has the full backing and support, and it's up to the manager to see if he continues to play him and see if he can play through it. But again, you run the risk of the wrath of the supporters if you do keep playing him and he doesn't produce. When you're on the park, you've got to produce. At the minute, Maeda's not producing, and the fans are rightfully annoyed at that. But I think everybody knows he's still a decent player and contributes a lot.
As I say, I take responsibility for backing him to be a potential.
You jinxed him.
I've put a link in the comments there because speaking of Maeda, in an act of supreme self-flagellation, Tony, I went through the chances that Celtic have missed in the Champions League, but only the actual good chances. So rather than just the whole 54 shots, 17 on target, that kind of thing, I'd filtered it by like XG. So what was an actually a good chance, that kind of thing. So the mid to high quality chances, there was 10 of them. There was actually 11 of them, but they scored the other one. So there's 10 of them that they missed. And I've just basically broke them down on the website. I've put the link in the comments here. And Maeda actually appears in the list 4 times in the 10, including all of the top 3. So people that have been criticising him for his finishing have a point. They've got the right to do it. It's backed up with the stats. It's true. The eye test backed up with the stats. But nonetheless, there's a reason that he gets a start. He has still been doing well off the ball. He's still getting his sell into those positions, is what I would say. Now, obviously, it means not much if he's missing. But to me, at least, he's still getting into those positions. Now, Ange Postecoglou obviously referenced the fact that he knows himself that Maida's not playing well in front of goal.
Yep.
So it's not something that they don't know within the team, within the coaching staff and stuff. But is it enough to actually like totally drop him from the team? I don't think so. And I think I agree with Ange Postecoglou. It's kind of, you've got to play through it. Now that doesn't necessarily mean he starts, but it will mean to me that he still gets game time.
Yeah, and the manager will be the judge of that, won't he? And I think everybody trusts the manager's judgment implicitly. So,
maybe some comments about his triple substitutions yesterday, I don't know, but
I get that, but that comes from being, as you said yesterday, deflated about losing and going out of the Champions League when they had high hopes to do well in it. But I mean, the Europa League's certainly not beyond them. There's still got 2 games to rescue that. So I just think it's the easiest thing in the world, Sean, to criticise. We try and strike a balance on the Celtic Way pod between, praise and criticism, and we don't go in studs up or be overly negative. I think you can have a balanced opinion on things at the minute, and Celtic, as everybody knows, aren't hitting the heights that they have in recent times. I mean, everybody can see that there are some players off form. It's affecting both the domestic and European form. We're not running away from that, but I think to go in studs up in the manager and certain players I don't think it's warranted at this time. It may come in due course, or if Aidan McDonald's on, he likes to go studs up in people. Cold and hard Aidan there. If you're watching Aidan,
cold and hard Aidan.
Are we nodding a wink to yourself, my good friend? So I think
there's actually a comment here on the back of Aidan's kind of comment yesterday. David Ferguson, employing a wee bit of creative license with the stats there, but does Real Hatate deserve to be dropped for giving the ball away 64 times on Tuesday? Obviously it wasn't 64, Tony, but regardless, we joke from David. But I wouldn't say the word dropped. I think rotated, rested, whatever way you want to put it, but I don't think it would be dropped, strictly speaking. But do you think he needs to be taken out, or is it more because McGregor's not there? Really, you need to play O'Reilly and Hatate as much as possible with someone else?
I think McGregor absence, you have to play O'Reilly and Hatate. I just think Hatate was uncharacteristically poor the other night, and he gave the ball away a lot of the time. And I was sent a Twitter message by someone who said, "You're not watching Hatate. He gives the ball away with increased regularity."
It gives it away, but sometimes, Tony, as I would say, and you know this yourself with O'Reilly, it's maybe because he's attempting a riskier pass rather than because he's just giving it away. Now, the other night he was dispossessed more times than anybody else, right? He was. But, and this isn't true just for every game, it depends on the game context and stuff, because O'Reilly had a really poor passing performance the other week there against, was it Motherwell?
Yep.
And it was just a poor passing display. It wasn't that he was trying all these risky passes and they weren't coming off. It was just a poor passing display. Hatate might have just had a poor passing display, gave the ball away a few times the other night, more than usual. But sometimes I would say most of the time with the both of them, it's that the roles that they play, the creativity, responsibility that they try and take on, they try and take riskier passes, and sometimes by their nature they won't come off. So you won't see them coming off the park with 95% pass completion, that kind of thing. But I still think David's got a point in terms of, on Tuesday, he did give the ball away more than other players.
No, totally. I agree with that. And Marky Boyce's correction, Hatate's a risk taker. That's what the manager wants. That's the way the manager likes to play football. It's risk and reward football. And unless the giving the ball away is hurting Celtic, which most of the time
sometimes it could be, but
most of the times domestically it doesn't.
Nah,
so they get away with it there. In Europe, it's different. You get hurt and you get punished, and as Celtic have found out. So that's just something that Hatate needs to work on. But the manager won't have a pop at him for taking risks and trying to play that kind of pattern.
Exactly, not for doing what he's asked them to do, that kind of thing.
I'd rather see that. I think that's football that the Celtic supporters want to see, because you're always offensive, you're always on the front foot, you're always looking forward. And I agree with you, the fact that those passes that maybe go astray are the fact that he's trying the riskier stuff. But I also agree with David that he can't be given away. I don't know, 64 times is an exaggeration, but he has to be a wee bit more careful and protective of the ball in situations.
And the thing is, you could make a case that Hatate, over across the 4 games, certainly the 3 before Tuesday, you could make a case Hatate's been Celtic's best player, or at least one of them in the Champions League so far. Obviously never got credited for that goal against Shakhtar. That goes down as an own goal, but he was still the one making that incisive run into the box and stuff, and got the shot or the cutback, whatever way you want to put it. But I wouldn't be overly harsh on Hatate, put it that way.
Yeah, and Andrea Gallia comes in and says, "Oh no, that was another one." Someone else, Gary McDowell says, "Do you think the constant rotation to the starting 11 is affecting the performances, Sean?"
I think it will have some sort of impact, but I don't think it should as much as what it maybe has been. I still think it's a case of missing chances rather than the whole performance necessarily being knocked by rotation per se, if you know what I mean. I don't think it's necessarily the players coming in that's making the performances not hit the heights, but I just think it's part and parcel of the Celtic with the schedule and the squad they've got. They need to rotate. All big teams rotate. You can't really avoid it these days. Depends where you're rotating. Now, that St Mirren game, I think he did get it wrong. I think he rotated in the wrong positions. Obviously, Carter Vickers, it turned out he was injured and therefore had to be subbed out. It had to be left out. But when you have Carter Vickers missing, and then the way that he set up the midfield with both Moy and Turnbull in, I think he got it wrong, basically, that day with the rotation. Whereas he rotated the same amount against Ross County and it was fine. So I think it depends, is what my answer is. Sitting in the fence there getting splinters, but it depends.
I think the manager himself hinted at the fact that he might have called it wrong at St Mirren, didn't he? When he said himself that he might have made too many changes. I think that was tantamount for him saying, I might have got it wrong there, miscalculated it. It happens, so that these things happen. You cannot go indefinitely without losing a football match.
True.
That's the bottom line.
You can try right enough.
You can try, of course, yes. And they went the best part of a year without losing a football match, so it wasn't the end of the world, just the end of that run. And as you say, Sean, domestically, they're still getting the results, maybe not the performances. Bless you, excuse you. You're all right.
There's a few comments, Tony, still coming in about Giakoumakis and Kyogo and stuff. Will McMillan neither scored the other night in Kyogo's Celtic.
I saw that comment as well.
Strictly speaking, I agree with Will. Kyogo, if faced with a straight choice, both at the top of their game, or even both just having an average game, I'm picking Kyogo. Kyogo is a better striker. He brings more to the team. And currently, he's also scoring more, but that might be disingenuous, as we like to use that word today, because it plays a wee bit more. But I tend to agree with Will just in general. Whether that means that he can't be taken out occasionally, I would disagree with that part. But we'll see. We'll see on Saturday. He might stay in for that very reason.
Correct, indeed. And again, we might play Kyogo to play through it as well, the same way he does with Maeda. So
Ozzy with a good comment, Tony, and this is something as Postecoglou referenced the other night. Actually, Ozzy says, I'd be interested to see how Celtic play with the pressure off from the Champions League. Less pressure, they may start going in the goals. He specifically said after the game the other night that there's other aspects that you can sometimes forget about when you play Champions League football, and he said the stresses and anxieties that it brings playing in that atmosphere, that platform, that level of competition. So I think it's a fair comment. Will they, with that pressure off for a couple of weeks, will you see them playing freer? Basically, I think is what Ozzy's getting at.
We'll find out on Saturday, but as a cracking point, he's referenced that a lot, talking about the Champions League and that rarefied atmosphere of that competition. And we all know that it's completely different to the domestic setup, and the goals and the chances and the goals that they were scoring in the domestic league are the same chances that they're creating in the Champions League. They were doing it for fun domestically up until the St Mirren game, and it's kind of dried up a wee bit, hasn't it, in terms of, not so much in terms of chances, but in terms of the goals. So it is different. It's a different ball game, and players do have get anxiety and that pressure that they might only get one chance a game and they have to score it, whereas domestically they might get 2 or 3, and if they miss one, they brush it off because another one's coming along any minute. So I totally get that, but again, in order to become a good team, you play at that. If you can play in that competition with increased regularity, then it will become second nature. You referenced Rab McCune's point about this year was a learning. It's been a steep learning curve in the Champions League, but if Celtic can get back to that level, then you'd have to hope that these things start going in and they become second nature and they do get used to playing at that level, and there's a marked difference. Time will tell on that, but it's bit by bit. As I said in my piece the other day, Celtic have had their moments in every one of the Champions League games. They have, and they've had spells where they've played really well and they've competed well and they've looked like a team. They've gone toe-to-toe with these teams for a certain amount of time, not the whole game, and that's what you want. You want to be able to go compete toe-to-toe for 90 minutes and possibly dominate a game the way you would a domestic game. It's a tall order, but you have to aspire to that, and the manager's always saying that's what he's aspiring to, and you can't knock them for trying. This was always going to be a tough ask. I think Celtic, to all intents and purposes, did have a rip at it. As we said, we hoped they would, and at this minute in time, we just have to accept that. Maybe we're not at this minute in time good enough to compete at the Champions League level with these kind of clubs at this moment. But given a year, we'll be wiser, we'll be better, stronger, as the manager says. I think it's important that we keep the manager there and you keep all those set of players.
Yep.
There, and if you can do that, then you're giving yourself every fighting chance to be better and to cope with a competition of that nature.
Pegleg Lonergan saying Kyogo seems to be trying too hard. He's forcing it. Strikers should play off instinct. Michael Ross saying 17 on target, 2 goals, referencing the kind of shot attempts in the Champions League. Technically, it's 1 goal because the other one was an own goal. So it kind of reads even worse when you think on it that way. But nonetheless, Gary McDowell saying, where was it? Some of those chances were not easy chances. I agree with that. Some of them, but there's a difference between an easy chance and a good chance, and I think Celtic should still be finishing good chances with the players that they've got. For instance, I've seen a lot of excusing Kyogo's header the other night. I think that was a very good chance. He was already at the penalty spot, if you know what I mean.
I can't excuse Kyogo's header. It's a free header and he has to hit the target. He's not even put it on target. So,
take Gary's point that some chances, even though they're there, weren't easy chances, but nonetheless, I think most of them were good chances. In that piece, there's actually, I think it's the 6th. Number 6 on the list is Matt O'Reilly's against Shakhtar, which Leipzig away, which I felt was massively overrated in terms of the XG that StatsBomb put on it, because I don't think it was a good chance at all. There was like 3 bodies in front of him, one at the side of him when he collects it in the box, no time to turn, that kind of thing. But you see it if you read it, because I've got a screenshot of it in there as to why I disagree that it's been rated that highly, that kind of thing. But for most of them, they're good chances. I'm not saying they're easy chances, but they're good chances, and Celtic have got good players that should finish them, is what I would argue. There's plenty going on here. There's still a lot about Giakoumakis, Tony, before we wrap up. Chilpil, we need Georgios Giakoumakis to deal with the physical battle with Ryan Porteous. I would always actually, I would go the other way. I would say I quite like seeing Kyogo buzzing about big brutes because they don't really know how to deal with him. If you face up a physical player with another physical player, they know what they've got to do that day. If you face them up with somebody that's cerebral like Kyogo, sometimes they just lose their temper. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could go the Guile and Craft route, can't you, with Kyogo, which would trouble Porteous. I think either or will trouble Porteous.
Aye,
to be fair. So
I mean, he's in a good run of form, but you never know when that'll turn.
So exactly. So, but I'm not perturbed who he plays on Saturday again, who he plays in the striker role on Saturday, because I think that I'm not writing Kyogo off in any shape or form. I just think he's does the set recently, but do you let him play through it because he's a wonderfully gifted and talented player, or do you bring in Giakoumakis? See what he can do. That's why the manager has the big bucks for these kind of calls, Sean. But we always try and second guess him with the lineup and stuff, and play our own Celtic manager for the days, and we'll do that tomorrow with the. I
was talking to a viewer and a Twitter follower about it the other day, because he'd messaged me saying, I'd got him thinking when I said he was going to go with the same midfield against Leipzig that he did against St Johnstone and stuff, and ended up a back and forth just talking to him for a while about it. And I was saying, despite my depth chart and all that and different things, if anything, I talk myself into things when it comes to the predicted lineups. I second guess them, third guess them, and fourth guess them, and end up getting 2 or 3 wrong. But I love doing it. I think it's fun. That's the kind of thing I find fun. So, on that note, Tony, Gary McDowell, would you start Forrest on the right? I'm not going to answer that because we'll come to it tomorrow. I think that's a great talking point for tomorrow.
Well, I think that's a great jumping off point, and we'll end the bulletin. But we'll remind you guys, fabulous prize. It's still there for Celtic. It could all hinge on Europa League football. Could all hinge on the Madrid match. Celtic go to the Bernabeu November the 2nd, last game in Group F, and you could be there courtesy of the Celtic Way and travel bank holidays. It's our best prize giveaway, and you have to be a subscriber. So if you've already subscribed, you've already had a forum, fill the form in, and that's you. You're entered into the draw. If you're not a subscriber, £6 for 6 months. This is our latest offer. You subscribe, and you'll also get the forum. Hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. You'll get the forum, fill it in. You'll be in the draw as well. £6 for half a year, Sean. It's a bargain, and you could win an all expenses paid trip for 2 to Madrid to watch Celtic play in the Bernabeu. Doesn't happen that often, Sean. And all you have to do is hit a button.
Last time, 1980.
Yes, all you have to do is hit a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, guys. Go on, subscribe. Be in it to win it. Somebody's going to win that prize, Sean, and I can't wait to see who it is that wins it, and hope they're delighted.
I think I'm going to have the pleasure of phoning them. Might get you on the phone call as well, Tony. That wardrobe of yours as well. But it ends on Monday night, by the way.
Monday night, guys.
Although ideally I would have kept it running until after the Shakhtar game, just to get you all right up for the Madrid trip. But realistically, got to give you enough notice to get some time off and stuff like that and get things organised. So,
and can I say thanks, guys, for the show today, because you've contributed greatly.
Definitely.
Sometimes you wake up and when you can be bereft of ideas per se, but you're never really bereft of ideas when you're talking about Celtic. But we value your contribution. We like the kind of bounce around and the Q&As. We like to involve you rather than just sit here and listen to myself and John. And we take all your points on board. We know they're valid because you're entitled to your opinion as much as myself and Sean there. But we enjoy the kind of to and fro, and we like to debate these things. And as we say, we'll talk about James Forrest tomorrow, Sean. We like the community that we're building here, and there's a lot of good people who make valid points, and we like to discuss them, and we try and discuss them, and we try and give you a mention and put your name in lights if we can. Thanks for the day, entertainment gents. Thank you, Peter King. Thank you, and thanks Gary as well. We appreciate it. We hope you do too, and judging by the comments you do, and we're growing our subscriptions list. We've only been around for a year, and Jerry Coyle, don't patronise us. I'm not patronising. I genuinely love it. There's no better feeling in the world than waking up in the morning and doing this. I've got to be honest, myself and Sean have spoke off air about it. We do pinch ourselves at times, and we enjoy it. You can see that in the way we talk about the club and the way we engage with yourself. So I hope that comes across. But thanks very much. We shall see you tomorrow. Hopefully you have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll reconvene. Sean, again, thanks for your contribution, first class. Thanks for the comments, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Tony.